Look where we are.
We are back, baby.
Where are we?
We are at Lakebound Bookstore, our incredible clients. We got some coffee.
Yes. Can you hear? Mine's melted. Oh, mine's always melted.
Mm.
Well, we got to do
We
cheers
do.
because we are here.
We are. And we're in a podcast studio over at Lakebound Bookstore.
We're the first people in here. So we're kind of like testing it out.
No more two girls, one mic. We got two mics,
we are
two cameras,
dubbing
multiple
up,
angles.
dubbing up.
We're dubbed up, baby.
For sure.
Dubbed up, baby.
Yeah. So thanks for bearing with us, everybody out there. We've had a lot of different set changes, but
yeah,
we're excited to kind of be in a place that might be the home of Feeling Called. We'll see.
Yeah.
See where it takes us.
And the main thing that I want y'all to know is that we started from our virtual chat podcast.
Started from the bottom. No, yeah.
And, that's how you grow. So my first message of today is going to be, because I'm feeling called to tell y'all this, is you don't have to have everything perfect in order to start. And this is a perfect example of us starting from literally, we didn't know how to podcast. We didn't know how to.
We dabbled.
Do any of that stuff.
We're still learning.
You definitely knew more podcast stuff than I did.
Well, that feeling though, when you first start anything, is kind of like it can really prevent you from taking any action. And so I think part of like growth mindset, which is thrown around all the time, is really just more about not having all the answers and being okay with, the first one might suck, but you know what? It's a starting point and you keep refining. Like continuous improvement models are my favorite because it takes like how we feel a little bit off the table in terms of where that like criticality might come in and self-judgment. I know personally, anytime like right before a launch or the start of something, I can really get into my head and it can create a lot of potential for self-doubt. Some imposter syndrome might live in there. We were talking a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah, I literally called Lauren earlier and I was like, I got a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm like, my imposter syndrome is coming out the woodwork today.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens and we're all living in this human experience and we're going on our own journeys and figuring out what's coming from childhood, what's really what we're feeling, what's things that we have to delve into, go through. And even though we're confident in what we do, we still have those days.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's just really important to know that as you're going through, even if you feel like you're an expert in something, you might have those days where you just feel like, is it good enough? Am I good enough? Am I doing what, am I keeping up with what I said I was going to do? And so I was definitely going through that today.
Yeah. How does that start for you? Like, when does that start to hit the scene? Do you notice any pattern there? Like when you think back on when it might have shown up with other projects or launches or anything really?
I don't know if I can kind of specifically tailor it, but as I think about when my imposter syndrome starts to come about, and it's usually something that, honestly, I think I tailor it into, it's usually a new idea or like a new avenue that I think of for something.
Okay.
Like, so with a little bit of background, today I called Lauren because one of our clients, we had the website that was, that we were working on, and I had made basically a full website. And when we started working with this client, and last week I redid the whole thing.
She felt called, y'all.
I was like, we just need to go in a different direction with this. Like, this is what my flow energy was like. We need to change this. Everything in my heart and being was like, it's not it. And especially stepping into the space and seeing the vision that our client had and like seeing the things here, I was just like, oh no, I got a totally different. So I thought that, and like, that's what my gut said, but I had so much anxiety around telling our client, like, hey, I kind of went in like a total opposite direction than like we had, and I just got really anxious. And then I called you and I was like, am I holding up my end of the bargain? Am I like, but sometimes I feel like we get into that mode of like, am I doing enough? And am I being enough? Because sometimes I don't feel like, and especially if I'm redoing something, or if I'm like going back and almost starting over, I'm like, oh man, like the timeline's not there, or I'm not getting it done in time, or we're
Yeah.
not. And I think the timeline piece was definitely a big part of why I was like, shoot, it's like done, but like it's not everything that I
Yeah.
said I was going to do by this date. And
Well, I think that that's actually one of our differentiators. We talked a little bit about this. When you think about what it means to be soul led,
yeah,
right? And there's the process as our mind likes it, which is very clean and clear and deadline driven. And then sometimes what can enter the scene or enter the chat is
mhm,
inspired action. And I did a lot of work around this concept in the past. What does it mean to take action from an inspired place? Typically, that's the place where that feeling called energy shows up because it's like this new vision popped in, and you're like, oh, I have to do this. Like, this is what it's meant to be. And we kind of have to get out of the way and just move towards that inspired action. But then our brain comes back online, and the reality of like, okay, what do we need to communicate? What does this mean for this and that? So that makes perfect sense, and it's also part of the gift. And
and I think it's part of where I currently feel like I'm at in the timeline, that I'm like 1 foot in to my past timeline, or like past Gina, and then 1 foot into this kind of
the
new.
in between.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so I feel like that. And just to go back to your point of how, how I kind of notice these things, I really don't notice it until it gets to the point where I can't
Mhm.
not
You gotta
notice
phone
it.
a friend.
I can't not notice it, but I think what sparks it is sometimes just seeing that there's like another vision that I have, and or something's that, structurally not on like a timeline that maybe we expected.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm holding up my end of the bargain, or I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm quite following or doing enough.
Mhm. Yeah. That's the human side of the
Yeah.
creation process, and also, that's like the gift and the curse sometimes, right? It's like there's a high standard of excellence that we place on ourselves,
Sure.
and that's a bar that we hold and are very, very connected to
Yeah.
in pursuit of the best possible outcome. And so when something feels like it took a left turn, even though we're still getting there, it kind of jars some of that. Like, am I still hitting that bar? And the answer is yes. But I want to go a little bit deeper on the timeline conversation because I think that's a really important one.
Yeah.
What is it? How would you describe feeling like you have 1 foot in an old timeline and 1 foot in a new in terms of like how that shows up for you? Juicy question coming at
Yes.
you.
And I think I really didn't even notice it until probably last month that it was kind of starting to happen. And with the eclipse and the portal, and kind of really just identifying, I went to a medium as well, and just kind of like combing through a lot of things, and, reading some different books, and kind of
Mhm.
just doing just all these little,
Little micro moments.
yeah, the
Yeah, they
micro
add up.
moments are kind of adding up for me. And it wasn't until last month that I really sat there and I was like, I think I'm shedding who I was.
Mm,
And not that I didn't like who I was, but I'm really coming into my gifts,
mm,
my purpose, what I'm supposed to do here, and even just the scope of like making the stuff homestead wise, and the herbalism, and like all the things that my family lineage has no experience doing. And it's like I'm the
mhm,
first person to even go this route. And I feel like for me, the 1 foot in, 1 foot out is almost like a lot of the patterns I'm noticing now of the things, whether it's, patterns of anxiety, or where the
mhm.
anxiety is coming from, or just the patterns that you notice. And I'm like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a place where I can notice and I can be the observer,
Mhm,
and I'm not necessarily getting stuck in that pattern. So I'm
mhm.
able to see the pattern when it comes in, notice that I do something or react a certain way. The best example I'll give is road rage, right? Because my road
I've
rage
been
used to
on the
be
phone during that.
really bad, and sometimes it still is,
I'm
because
just a little now we
sometimes
just tip a toe.
people, I'm just like, "What are you doing?" So, noticing that, and when the emotion is coming up, stopping it before it gets into a place of, like, the verbal reaction
Mm,
or the emotional, like, anger, or however I'm deciding to
the
feel,
pause, yeah.
and you notice it, and I'm just like, breathe through it.
Mm,
Okay, alright. And my old me would have reacted.
yeah,
New me, what does new me wanna do? And I get to choose that now, and I get
definitely.
to figure out what how I wanna react in those
Mhm.
situations, and I think that's such a beautiful combination. It's hard
Mhm.
as well because you have this new pattern that's, like, rising,
Mhm.
and then you notice it, and then you're like, "Okay, holy crap, I gotta figure out something new. Like,
Yeah,
what do
that's
I wanna
new
do?"
neural
Like
pathway coming online. That is what's happening in the
yep,
wiring
yep.
of that, and that power of the pause is huge because that's where, like, our true self lives is in that in between moment of, "Okay, I'm bringing consciousness and awareness to this." And I really do have way more free will than we might think when we're stuck in the reaction. And a lot of that can come down to as well the healing of the nervous system and being able to. I remember I had to go through a phase where I would repeat to myself daily, I am safe. I came out of a lot of situations where physically, emotionally wasn't safe. And when you find yourself in, a new way of life and a new way of being, and you're around people that are really safe, it takes time for our body to catch up and not be stuck in that trigger, that activation of something's wrong. I need to scan my environment all the time because until that starts to settle down a little bit, it's really hard to find space for that pause.
Yeah. And I can speak directly to that just from my hypervigilance coming from law enforcement, but not even just career wise, even just being in a family lineage of survival and
Mm,
where that parasympathetic nervous system is just constantly on high alert and there's never a down.
yeah.
Like there's never a like, relax didn't have a good meaning when I
Mhm.
was growing up. It was when somebody told you relax, I would do the opposite of relaxing. I'd be like, "You're telling me to relax? Fuck you. I'm not relaxing. Now you got me on another level. Like, now I'm not
Yeah.
relaxed, and I will not be relaxed for a very, very, very long time."
Mm,
And so I had a very bad even, like, meaning to what the word relax meant, and that comes again from
yeah.
it being passed down in a way of, like, when somebody told you relax, it was like, I'm telling you to relax because I'm like, you know,
Right.
chill rather than relax, like,
Like, take the pause,
relax
take
and
the pause,
pause,
yeah,
yeah.
and when we deal with family lineage and, we think about the day-to-day patterns for ourselves, but it often is lost on us that we don't realize how much is compacted from generational pass downs, and so if there is scarcity at play with the whole family line, where I see this come up a lot, and I dealt with this too, is around relationship with money or receiving. And that is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, particularly those that are the givers that really want to show up and make life better for other people. And I think sometimes in service of that, it can start to turn into being uncomfortable to receive. And the energy of money is all about receiving.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how, when you think about the family line and by the way, like being the person in the family line that's meant to forge a new way on behalf of the family line, it's like the
Yep.
definition of I'll go first.
That shit is
There's a lot.
wild.
There is a lot. And I think that's where like the term black sheep has been coined around like, okay, there's this pattern within the family and I see this I've seen this personally around particularly families in addiction, and, the saying, like, "The family has to be in recovery together." A family in recovery means everybody's starting to shift into this space of self-awareness of how have I contributed in one way or another to a role that I play in this, whether it's the person that's rejecting the person or the person that's coddling and giving, money to the person, whatever it looks like. But when it comes to scarcity and family patterns and being the one that's going first, now we're leading in a whole other way. And it isn't always often received with like open arms of acceptance, depending on how deep rooted that is. So tell me a little bit more about the scarcity component and if you've seen a correlation to money or abundance or the energies that you're now in this new timeline of, and where there might be a little tug of war potentially.
Yeah, damn, loading these questions
Yeah,
up.
I mean, you can hit me, I'm here.
I gotta
But it's good.
I gotta try and track
Yeah,
which
money,
question.
receive, money, receive.
No, and I really feel that, like, as someone who is literally here to disrupt the family lineage, the generational traumas, the generational curses, and I know that a lot of people are also here
Mm,
in this specific here and now time in order
yeah.
to do that, and I'm getting full goosebumps, so
Mhm.
I know that that is coming the
Uh-huh, me
truth.
too. Yeah.
And again, if you feel like you're here and you kind of are like that black sheep, or you are someone who is just moving different and it feels good to you, and it feels right, and you are like doing your own healing, I'm commending you for it, because it is a
Amen.
very, very, very difficult thing to go through, especially when you have just that lineage of like everybody's kind of done the
There's a
same
blueprint.
thing, and
Yeah.
here's how we live. And again, going back to the relaxed conversation with having a bad connotation about it, and even just rewiring myself to be like, no, relax is like, I deserve to relax, and
Yeah.
identifying that as not a word that is like a negative thing.
Mhm.
So when we talk about money, and especially in my family, coming from a place where both sides of my family had no money, my mom's side and my dad's side just were completely, you know, sometimes they didn't even have food on the table. My mom's side had, I think she has 10 brothers and sisters, and my dad's side had a lot as well.
Mhm.
So growing up, I mean, I've only heard stories, obviously I wasn't there, but I've heard stories of just not being able to have, food on the table. My mom hates grape jelly to this day because that's all they had with
Mm.
like crackers growing
I
up.
won't bring any over
Yeah.
when I come visit mom. No grape jelly, noted.
But there's some things that
They're activation
even yeah, they're
points.
activation points for her that,
Yeah.
that she'll tell me that she doesn't even really notice, and she's
Mm.
getting better at it because I'm able to go through my healing, and I've been, she's been seeing that as a safe space to also open up and do that for herself as well, which I think
Mhm.
is really, really cool and powerful.
Definitely.
So again, if you are on that journey and you are doing things that are healing yourself, like there are other people who see that, and you're going to create, like, even though it might be like people are going to make fun of you at first, they're going to say, "Oh, Gina's got a new herb she's talking about, whatever," right? But now I was literally, sorry, this is going to be a little side quest here,
Let's
but
do it. I
it
love a
was
good
really,
side
really
quest.
cool because this is the perfect example of something that I've been putting, in the back, in like kind of exposing my
Mhm.
my brother to kind of
Mhm.
for the last year. Like when I came back from Florida, I was like, "Hey, you save the avocado pits, you put them in water and it'll grow a new avocado." And he's like, "Okay,
I'll
Gina,
save
what?"
my pits for
I
you.
know, right, exactly. It's like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna save avocado pits, but like, thanks for telling me." And then, going into, "Oh, well, you can propagate this and here's how." And it's like,
It's a
cool.
passion. It's
It's like,
become a passion.
but my brother's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Not
Like, I
everybody's gonna latch on to
don't
the
really
propagate.
care." So, literally, I was over at my mom's house this past weekend, and my brother pulls out an apple, and he's about to bite into it. He's like, "Gee, tell me a fun fact about an
What
apple."
can I do with these seeds, sis?
I said, "Do you know that apples are from the rose family?" And he was like,
For real?
"Yeah."
Is this like the cilantro and coriander?
I
Guys,
mean,
did you know that those were the same freaking thing? Because I didn't.
cilantro turns into coriander. So when you grow cilantro, and the
Mind
the
blown.
the brown the brown balls on the they start
No
to make
comment.
brown balls, and that is your coriander. So you pick that,
It's
and
wild.
that's your coriander.
Yeah,
That's
these are
literally
the
your
these are
seed.
the tidbits of like I think that was probably my equivalent of you and the pepper. I
Yeah.
think that's my pepper moment of like we were with Amanda Goyer, who's the owner of Sand Lake Merchant and one of our clients here at the bookstore. And we were sitting together when Gina told us this, and we both looked at each other like I was today years old when I learned this.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because, like, how many of those
How much
facts.
don't I know?
Right, exactly.
Well, that goes back to growth mindset.
Yes.
I will admit that I had
No.
no clue, and it's just interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I love nature, and I'll always bring it back to nature because I just find, like, there's so much that you can learn from it, anything you can tailor it back to, it's just constant. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, with all that said, going back to just kind of like, if you are on your healing and you're doing these things, people are watching, and you are slowly opening up the safe space for them to then open up to you or to go on their own healing journey.
Yeah.
So I think that's so powerful.
It's a really good reminder in terms of like the why behind you're doing it, why you're doing it as well, right? Like if you're doing it for the approval of other people or for some kind of reaction from somebody else, like that isn't really the core of the why.
No.
That's a byproduct. So if you're, charting a new course, it's like a new audience as well. And so the people, you're going to find your people by staying in your lane and your zone of genius and just living from that place of realness. And that will attract the people that are ready to hear it and interested in it. And that means that there's going to be people that fall away. And that doesn't mean like that could literally be somebody unfollowing you, right? And that's part of the process, when we're shifting lanes. And to tie it back to the family conversation, you're coming out of a defined blueprint.
Yeah.
And you're creating another one potentially from scratch. It's new territory. You're learning as you go. You're applying and developing the lessons learned and the wisdom gained.
Yeah.
That takes time. I mean, the other blueprint's been in place for, you know, decades, generation after generation. And so the resistance lives. That in and of itself is kind of like its own matrix because it is a defined blueprint. And these responses, and even when it comes down to like fear responses or scarcity mindset, these things get stored in the body at a cellular level. And so you might be feeling like you're having this reaction in your body that is actually like really old, like not just this lifetime. It's something we've been carrying. Like my Nana, for example, she was raised during the Great Depression and she emigrated from Italy through Ellis Island way back in the day. And so I remember when I would go over to her house and I would see like she would like hoard Diet Coke. See, my Diet Coke love was like this goes back, y'all. But it was always caffeine free and it was 2-liter bottles. And it always had a specific taste because it'd probably been in there since like a decade prior. Cause it is like apocalypse food, right? But I always remember
that
thinking
will last a freaking lifetime.
Yeah, like and so she was very much in that because she also lived through it, right? So when we go through things, our preparedness meter goes up and we're trying to figure out like how do I survive moving forward? And even if that isn't aligned with the present reality, the mind is wired to be like, okay, but this could be coming and where am I living from paranoia and where am I living from the reality of what feels right in my life? I think that's a biggie.
Oh, yeah, and to just dive deeper on that, I literally had my power go out the other day, and I was like, "Okay, this is, like, just remind me
I need a
that
bug-out bag.
This is time for me to doomsday prep." No,
At least some pickles.
I have always believed that you should not ever have an empty glass jar.
I know, I give you mine.
Yeah, but as far as, like, even having water in them or having something in them that is of value, because if you do, run like, if we do have something go out and the power goes out or, you have whatever, at least you have water.
Yeah.
So I filled up all my empty liquor
I
bottles
think I
that I
saw
stole
it.
from
I
my
think I
mom's house.
saw that on your story.
Sure did. But you know what?
I was like,
Everybody's gonna know
I'm gonna give you my Rouse
that
tomato sauce bottles.
Please, I need more cans.
So then when I run out of water, I'll just come over.
Yeah. That's why. But it's funny because even just going back to like what I do and
Mhm.
and how people know me, you like I have made myself crystal clear to people so they know. Don't kill bugs in front of me. I will save it. Like, tell me to come over and get the spider. I will take it. I
Oh,
will
I
put
know.
a glass over it. I will put the paper. I will take it outside.
Kids, don't tell Auntie Gina that the spider went bye-bye this morning. Don't you do it. You're gonna get me in trouble.
Not throwing out flowers, not throwing out like you like people who know me. I've established that for myself.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself
part
is
of your
super
personal
powerful.
brand.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to like it or everybody has to whatever, but like you think twice about doing certain things or asking me certain things or bringing me certain things because I won't eat processed shit or I won't have a Diet Coke.
I mean, every once in a while, like a little goodie. Just a little goodie.
Yeah.
But that's only in a TJ snack bag.
It's totally it's totally in moderation. But
Yeah.
my point in saying that is like when you know who you are and you are going on your own healing journey and you're establishing that to other people, they will then know. So you are literally telling people who you are, and which is also creating like a what to do and what to not do around me.
Yeah.
And that's going to attract and let people fall off as they may.
Yeah, it's
And
like an
just
alignment of values,
yeah.
right? And I think we tell people who we are truly by our actions.
Yep.
I mean, we could think we're one way all day long, but if you aren't aligning those actions and those inspired actions with your values and who you really, call yourself to be, then it's not going to resonate and it's not going to come across as genuine. And
Yeah.
I think about this even in leadership all the time, right? It's like you could have somebody reading all the leadership books, touting all the right things, but at the end of the day, when push comes to shove and there's a crisis that hits and your people make a mistake, how are you showing up as a person?
Yeah.
Are you taking all of your projected anger and making somebody feel less than? I
Yeah.
don't give a shit how many books you read. If you are not acting from that place of values and from being a good person, then you can't even call yourself a leader because that's just not what a leader does.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And you mentioned something before that I wanted to go back to, about unfriending people.
Mhm.
I want everybody to know that it is okay if you unfriend somebody or block somebody because they do not align with where you're going or what you want to see.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say that is really because I unfriend people and, you know, I mean, I don't usually block people, but usually I'll unfollow them or unfriend them because their content no longer resonates with me.
Mhm.
So like why do I want to
Do a
see
cleanup.
content that just doesn't resonate with who I am
Yep.
now or where I'm going? And I think a lot of people take that to like heart when, they're like,
Take
"Okay,
it
well,
personally.
yeah, like oh, you
Mhm.
unfriended me, unfollowed me." And it's like we live in such a digital time that if
Mhm.
that happens, it's so cutthroat, but
Yeah. But that's my whole algorithm, and if it doesn't align with who I
yeah.
am actually, I've heard around, like, new moon ritual and stuff going into your feed, and as you see stuff come across in pursuit of your scrolling, if something, like, elicits fear or cringe or anything that doesn't align with you, just unfollow it because we this social media is an echo chamber.
Yeah.
I mean, it is responding, obviously, to the things that we engage with or the things that we pause on just a little bit longer, so if
Yeah.
you are taking the clickbait and going into things that are activating in a very negative way, you're going to get pushed a lot more of that stuff. So if we don't go in and clean up honestly our triggers and get to a place of like, I am perfectly fine having, a bunch of horny, happy memes and some kittens and coffee. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good. Gina's tincture, how to's. Like, that's what I want in my feed all day. And it's not about like, sticking your head in the sand from the world's issues. I think we're
Yeah.
inundated with propaganda, to be honest. And depending on where you stand on anything, your whole algorithm is going to be reflected to double down on that view. And this is
Yeah.
creating a huge not only distraction from how to be present in our day-to-day lives because we are activated into that anger, that hypervigilance, but the amount of division that's happening at the level of humanity and at a collective level is honestly
It's disgusting.
it's in a place that I feel like it can only get better at some point. Like I feel like we're hitting critical mass on what needs to get bad before it gets better. And like you mentioned, the people that are here and now, the more we step into our truth and our light and aligning our actions and our day to day with being good people and creating community and remembering that, like, I think I'm not going to butcher this one because it's Mother Teresa's. But it said, if she said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. What kind of energy are you creating in your household? If you're going out and, fighting the good fight and you're getting hung up in all this drama and chaos, and then you go home and you're short and agitated with your kids, and now they're holding something that they're bringing with them for the next generation. Like there's a lot of power in bringing it back to like, what can I control right here and now? And where am I being sucked into a wave of energy that is creating like a hopelessness around even like humanity or where we're going as a species. I mean, it's getting that bad, rightfully so. But
Yeah.
damn, sometimes you got to give yourself a digital detox. I know, like every once in a while, I have to take a 30-day pause from social media and they say like if you're not creating, you're consuming. And the consumption includes what we hear, it includes what we watch, obviously what we eat. But that's like using up all the bandwidth that we could potentially be alchemizing into our unique creation in this world.
Yep.
And I think that that's really a big part of the feeling called conversation is that you won't be able to hear the call if you have inundated yourself with other messages that there's no room for any other message.
Exactly. It's like how often do you go on and just doom scroll?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I am
I love a good
huge
mukbang.
I'm a huge fan of doom scrolling,
Mhm.
but not to the point where it's, like,
Yeah.
detrimental to your
Taking
mental
over.
health
Yeah.
and taking over your entire life. Like, I love sometimes
Yeah.
just, like, I
Some
wanna sit
mindless.
on t
Mhm.
but it is the For You page that I've created that is my
Yes.
interest.
Next thing
It's
you know,
not,
I'm
like,
buying new
drama,
Tupperware and organizing, and then I give
making a
up.
new
I give up
tincture and, like,
midway.
salve and
Jamie's like, "Why do we have" this is my husband. "Why do we have more Pyrex containers?" Well, I saw this reel, and the way she set everything up, I went to her Amazon storefront. Next thing you know, I mean, I've gotten way better on that. I don't do it anymore. However, I am in recovery, and it doesn't take long for me to, like,
recovering Tupperware
wanna
addicts.
click in and be like water bottles, Tupperware, hair ties too. I don't know, I love a good hair tie, pens. I mean, I have my things where I'm like, I didn't need this at all, but
But
I
do you
love it.
ever have enough hair ties? Where do they all
I don't
go?
know, my
Just
daughter.
that sucks. Where do they go?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
ever know.
I actually we have a okay, side quest. We have a process in our house because it does get to a point where I'm like, how is there like one of every sock and no pairs? Where we will just take the drawer, dump it, and I will go buy brand new socks. It was probably time anyway, like, at a certain point, and just replace them all, and we'll do it again in 6 months. Like, that's probably the good life cycle for a sock anyway.
Oh, you got the monies. You got the good money.
Well, it's funny because growing up, my sister and I, this is kind of like a, I don't know, maybe a running family trauma. I don't know. We we were, and this goes back to the scarcity component. And after my parents got divorced, my mom bought this house and started a business, and it failed, and she went bankrupt, and we went from like having what we needed to not being able to wash our clothes and not having clean socks and not having our day-to-day necessities. We didn't have running water at one point. Like it got bad, and it was such a different lifestyle than what I was used to, that now I find myself like, if I don't have clean socks in the drawer, I'm going to buy new socks because I feel like it's tied to almost like, if I don't have good socks in my drawer, then what am I doing here? Like it's very
Okay.
strange.
Well, so let's break that down.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go back to the family lineage conversation. 'Cause I know
Yes.
we got off tangent. What can you do in that instance so that you don't have those thoughts come up of the lack? Because that's what I'm getting in that
Yeah.
regard.
No, I get you. I think for me, it's actually just radical acceptance that new socks bring me joy.
Okay.
Like, I get really excited when I open a drawer and it's organized and I have my new socks. This sounds so silly, but these are like moments of joy. And in fact, when I would just put my head in the sand and ignore it and be like, okay, whatever, like the kids can just find their own pairs, or just kind of like let it go, that's what actually triggers the anxiety for me, because I feel like it's within my control, thank
Mhm.
God,
Yep.
and I'm able to do something about it. And there's like, I'm a big fan when I think about like the energy in my home. If there's like something that you've been neglecting, or you've been meaning to get to, or it's like, God, I know I need to do the socks thing. Once I do it, it's like all that energy flushes away. And now I have a little moment of delight in my house, because when I open that drawer, I'm like, oh yeah. Like it's
It's
like
like
when I clean
taking
out the closet.
it's like taking like when you're like trying to take something back that you need to return.
Yeah.
You're just like, I gotta go back to the store and return that. But then
Yeah.
once you do, you're like,
You just
"Okay,
got
I
to
got
raw
my
dog it.
money
You
back."
just get like, I did it.
But
Yeah.
I get caught up in that too of like, it's the thought of
Mm.
doing the thing instead of actually doing it.
Yeah.
And what's your process to actually like get over that?
Honestly, it's gratitude. And I remember another good example of this is, like, I actually don't complain about doing laundry, because at one point I couldn't. And I think when you go to that place of like taking a moment and taking inventory of the world that you've built in the
Mhm.
here and now, and really recognizing that that isn't the way anymore, that that isn't what my children will know. And, I think part of that contrast growing up helped me really get to a place of, what does it mean to be really grateful? Like, sometimes you have to experience, I think a certain level of adversity builds character,
For sure.
but it does take a lot of awareness to, like, get to that place of noticing that I can put those bags down now. I don't have to keep carrying them. So being very intentional in the day to day, like where you're on autopilot, we wanna notice. Where are you just going from one thing to the next? Because those little things, those little moments can create a little pocket of awareness and intention in your day. And so even though I'm I might go back to that story in my head, the story has changed. It isn't as much about the fact that I didn't have it. It's more about the gratitude that I have now that I've been able to create it. And I think that that really, really helps ground me. And also, like, I don't want to victimize myself. Like, I don't want to be stuck in a story where that story just becomes my paradigm. That was a chapter. And I learned a ton from that chapter, and it gives me a lot of grace for my mom even, in terms of, like, what she must have gone through. Like, she was, like, the same age as me now when we went through that, and I couldn't imagine, like, her world was swirling, and she was doing the best she could, and
Yeah.
everything was falling apart, and, kids can get lost in the shuffle, but, like, so can the grown-up.
Right.
And as a woman now and as a mom, it allows me to even change the way I think about my mom's role in that versus, kind of how the story now reflects grace
Yeah.
in all of it.
And I think that's a really important point that you made because we don't we can always look back at a situation and be like, "Oh man, I wish I had this," or
Mhm.
my parents didn't show me love in this way or whatever. And the reality of a lot of situations is that they were doing the best that they could
Yeah.
with what they knew and what they had. And so going back to our the finance conversation
Mm.
and the generational traumas that are associated with that,
Yeah.
it's it's been a really, really, really difficult thing for me to even get through because coming from a family where, my grandma did not ever have anything, and then my mom not having anything,
Mhm.
working 3 jobs, and always being in this survival mindset, it's like naturally that's kind of always what I thought. So
Mhm.
that's why when I first started, working and stuff, I started working at 13, like,
Same,
and it
boo.
was always a hustle, like, and
Always.
for the longest time, my mom was always like, "No, you hustle. You go from one place and you do this and you do this." But I
Figure
was
it out.
always like, "But if you're never getting ahead, like what is that doing? Like we're
Yeah,
not
it's
here to
busy.
just work and we're not
Mhm.
here to just like go from one to one to one. Like, do you even enjoy life?" And so
Yeah.
in my kind of healing and having these conversations with her, like luckily she's been able to watch me heal in the way that I have, and
Mhm.
she's been able to sit there and say like, I see what you're saying, like,
Yeah.
I can see what you're talking about now. Because
Yeah.
those first conversations, I was just like, "Yeah,
That's breaking up the
o
blueprint. You're
okay," like
challenging a whole reality,
yep,
and there's resistance that lives there
yep,
naturally, and
yep,
it's not even about us as the bringers of the different blueprint. It's
yeah,
more about like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on. My brain is wired for that storyline,
yeah,
and taking that off the table, then does that shatter my reality?" And there's a lot in that for people.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so from her coming from what her mom, had, and my grandma and even my grandma's mom, but, like, each person along the line changed at least one little thing
Mm.
to get me to where I'm at today, and for that, I'm really
Yeah.
grateful. Even though it's like you look at everything and you're like, "Oh, that shouldn't have happened, and how do we get to that
Yeah.
point?" But it was what they knew at the time.
Definitely.
And so now what I'm doing with what I know at the time from all of their lessons that I've been able to learn in my experience along the way, but then also being opened up to this new healing that I've been doing, it's
Yeah.
like, now can you imagine what my kids are gonna have and
Yeah.
what they're gonna be able to experience and bring to the world
Mhm.
because I was able to see what my mom was doing, what my grandma was doing, and
Definitely.
each of them along the way.
Yeah, it
Like
reminds me of a visual that I saw around. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where there's like a cup of really dark liquid, and then there's like 5 other cups. And as you pour some of the dark into like water, it dilutes it a little bit. And so this is how like family traumas kind of and passed down generational things get kind of broken up. It's like there's a little bit in there, and then there's, a wash cycle going on, and there's an iteration happening. There's more awareness coming into it. And really, I one thing that I heard that always really stuck with me is like when you make that change, it's healing all the way back and all the way forward, right? Because now your mom in this example is witnessing you as her daughter questioning, breaking up patterns, trying new ways, maybe imparting new ways of thinking for her even now at this point in her life and seeing it. And so that's like the healing front to back that the potential is there for, which is super powerful.
And like I said, I was with her yesterday and just having these conversations that I would
Mhm.
have never been able to have with her growing up, or even just like she wouldn't have given it the time of
Yeah,
day.
she didn't have space for it.
No.
Yeah, it's the
And
busy
now
stuff. Mhm.
being able to see me go through what I've been through, but then also being in a place where, because it's two-sided. She also has to be in a place where she's able to receive that. So she's been doing her
Definitely.
own work as well.
It's beautiful.
And it's kind of just a really full circle moment that we were able to have yesterday. And like me just,
Soaking it all in.
yeah, like
Mhm.
even just saying I'm proud of, proud of her. And it was just so powerful
Yeah.
because, growing up, we never heard, neither of us, her or I, didn't
Mhm.
hear that word, So like now being able to be in a position where we
You can
transfer
receive.
those, and that phrase that
Yeah.
I'm proud of you is like from daughter to mother and also mother to daughter.
Massive.
Like it's powerful stuff
Yeah,
here.
and
So
and that's part of the receiving conversation too. It's not just about, receiving money and staying in an abundant space. It's also like, how do you feel when somebody says, "Freaking nice job, I'm proud of you."
yeah,
Are you able to receive that? Are you counterbalancing that with an old voice in your head that said, yeah, but," right? The yeah buts. We can kill ourselves with that. And so receiving also means like letting yourself settle into a place of feeling seen.
yeah,
And, we're not doing what we do to necessarily feel seen, but damn, it's nice when somebody is like, wow, I see you.
yeah,
And the more we start to see ourselves and follow those paths, whether it's, new directions that you're taking with herbalism and other things, like you're meeting new parts of yourself as
mhm,
well. And the more we see ourselves in those new parts, the more likely we are to start to be able to receive when somebody else sees us.
yeah. And going back into the imposter syndrome conversation,
Hmm.
like even when you said it was great, yeah, but is
Yeah,
the
but.
client gonna like it? Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, but am I hitting? Those are the things that start to creep in. And even
Yeah.
though I'm like, yeah, I know, like one side of you is like, yeah, I know this is good, but
Mhm.
also it's like, and again, a lot of it's from past traumas that,
Yeah.
you have coming up too,
Yeah,
or
doubt
just,
creeps in. And so something that for anybody listening that might be dealing with this too, when you feel that come up, that voice that says, "Yeah, but," like, see it.
yeah,
Like, notice it. This brings awareness to the pattern and allows us to kind of break things up. And we talked a little bit about this with one of our human design clients around when you have the power to notice it, you can first see how many times it's probably happening. So first, it's not judging that it's happening. It's saying, "Oh wow, I realized that I did that like 10 times to myself in the past hour
yeah,
and wasn't able to receive the true feedback of somebody being happy with something." Right.
yep,
And so when we notice it, again, I think the self judgment part of this conversation is very important. And when you start to notice, don't beat yourself up for how much you're noticing it or how much you're doing it. It's just an opportunity to interrupt the thought and pull in a different thought. So
yeah.
I brought this example up. Mine is always, I'm okay. It's just signaling a point for me back to safety. When I say that, my whole body calms down and I can come back into like the higher executive function of my brain that says, hold on a second here.
We're not outrunning a lion right
Don't
now. We can come
exactly like chill out on the yeah buts because we're good. Yeah.
And I want people to understand what happens with that, like, and again, I'm not a medical professional by any means, but I just know enough
You're
to be
medicine woman.
dangerous.
So you're my resident medicine woman. So
I know herbal stuff, but like
yeah.
when it comes to the internal body, I'm like, I don't. But the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, like
Hmm.
that needs to be a balance. And what happens a lot of times with like anxieties and our go to go and that hustle culture
Yep.
is we are always trying to outrun the lion.
Yes.
There is no lion
There's
chasing
no
you.
line. No, a lot of the threats are actually psychological now,
Yeah.
which is why our bodies don't know. It's going against our grain from a nature perspective because our bodies don't know what to do with that. And so
Yep.
we're looking for a fuck to give, right? Like we are now scanning and sometimes what happens is we create the problem
Yep.
because now like my brain said, "Oh, see?" Like but really like we played potentially a big role in that external expression of chaos.
Yeah.
And then our world starts to become that and that can become the grand distraction. That can become the new definition of busy that says, I can't relax, I can't take a beat, I can't create the pause because I've never been to that place, so I need to keep these external stimuli going strong so that I can essentially not be required to sit with myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so tailoring that back into when it comes to money and when it comes to finances.
Mhm.
If we are always going, then we have no time or space to receive.
Yeah.
We are chasing, we are constantly chasing, we are running after in a way,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So one
So
of
it's
the
never gonna
biggest
feel like enough
no,
because the goalpost keeps moving. It's a
exactly.
trap. Yeah.
So when we talk about generational healing, a space that we are able to go when we heal ourselves and when we're actually able to identify, okay, this is not like a threat right now. Like, let me sit with it, or
Yep.
creating space is you're able to open up that receivership
Mhm.
and receive and get clarity on the things that you
Yep.
want and the things that you deserve. And our families didn't have the opportunity to really do
No.
that because they were always taught, and to no fault to
Yeah, and there was
themselves.
actual survival going on.
Yes,
Like, there's that too, right?
exactly.
Mhm.
So when that travels down generations
Yeah.
and it gets here and we're like, okay, there's no lion that we're outrunning.
Mhm.
There's no
I'm
storms that we're
safe.
outrunning. I'm safe.
Am I okay? Yeah, but
I'm able. Yeah, but like, wait a minute. What do you do? And
Mhm.
how do we navigate that new space? And that's where us, this new generation, these new healers, these new light
Yeah.
people
Us light workers.
come in and we're like, okay,
Like, "Wait
we're
a minute.
okay.
I'm
We
okay."
get to we get to
Yeah.
rewrite the narrative. We get to heal. We get to identify the things that were not working and that are not a
Yes.
threat anymore. And we're done chasing
Yeah.
and we're done running away from. And now we sit with the things that we're grieving or the
Mhm.
things that are passed down that no longer serve us. And we're able to pick those apart, comb through them, and say,
Yep.
okay, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to keep this.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this. I'm going to keep this.
Mhm.
And as you're going through that, I know for me, when I started combing through the stuff that was just like a lot of ick, right? And I mean, this has been years now
Yeah.
that you comb through. It's
It's
not
never really done. We're
easy.
always, like, pruning.
Yes, it's
Mhm.
not an
We're still human.
practice, but and it doesn't happen quick, but when you start doing the work, it gets a lot easier because then you're again able to
You're
identify, like I was
familiar.
talking about those patterns. What are the
Mhm.
patterns that were the old narrative and what's the ones that you want to carry
Yeah.
into your new?
And we have to practice holding that new feeling in our being. And I think that's a biggie. I talked to my mom a lot about, and she still struggles with her mindset around
Mhm.
money. And I remember we had a conversation and I said, Mom, I bet in this moment, if like take a minute, I had her just kind of sit there and I said, how easy is it for you to recall that feeling of not having enough money? What does that feel like for you? And it's instantaneous. It's like, that moment right before you go to check your bank account balance. Or I remember for us, and I've worked through it, but there would be times where we had like a groceries in our cart and she would get declined and we had to put all the food back. And I still like carry some of that. And so these feelings that are ingrained and part of the blueprint that get handed down, we're experts at holding that frequency. We're experts. So to shift that into the new timeline, right? Which is really like, okay, where do I want to go with this? We have to be intentional with sitting with that new feeling. So I had her like sit there and really recall what it means to feel like she has enough. Like sit with that, create it.
Mhm.
Even if you don't know it, create it like, oh, wow, I don't have this feeling in my gut before I go into my account. The money is flowing in. I feel ease in my body.
Mhm.
And that's a great daily practice of
Yeah.
because you might need to create that feeling. That's what starts to change and shift some of that blueprint energy. So just a practical tip for anybody listening and
Yeah.
some of that.
And let's dive into that a little bit more because I think that's super important. And that it really hits on the point that we're trying to make today with being able to just be open and receiving money
Yeah.
and putting a new spin on what it is
Mhm.
and that energy of money, right? Because everything in life holds a frequency, it holds an energy,
Yes.
and you basically make the energy of it.
Yep.
You have to identify what that means to you, and that's what you're
Mhm.
sharing space with. So I'm gonna ask you a theoretical
Let's
here.
go. Let's go.
So let's say, let's give the example that you were given to your mom,
Mhm.
someone who is coming from a lack around
Mhm.
money. And they're in the position where they want to rewire their mindset. What
Yeah.
are some of the coaching tips that you would provide?
Yeah, I've actually gone through this same topic with coaching clients, and one of the things that I found has worked well is actually sitting down and thinking about what your core beliefs and what your core fears really are. And when you can kind of put them on paper, it releases some of their power because you create a potential to look at them a little more objectively without tying a whole story to it. And I think when we talk about processing emotions as part of that, we need to get to a place of being able to feel the feeling without assigning a ton of meaning and a whole story and all the things from the past to that feeling. Because otherwise, we're just essentially replaying the same tape and then it gets locked in. So, one of the things you can do is sit down, okay, what is my belief about money? Do I believe that anybody who has a lot of money is an asshole? Do I believe that there isn't enough to go around? Do I believe that I'm not worthy of how, like, who am I to have all of this money? Like, these are little hidden things that live subconsciously, but when we start to sit down and be intentional around, wow, I never really thought about what my belief or my fear is, and you put it down on paper, now you've created an opening.
That shit is powerful,
It
bro.
is really powerful. Really powerful. I went through this when, like, I didn't realize that I kind of had this core belief that I was unlovable in some way. And this can carry over from childhood, it can carry over from relationship with men, whatever it is. Like, there's something I'm doing that isn't allowing me to receive and be in healthy relationships. And when I uncoupled, like, the personal feeling of that and just sat with it and said, "Wait a second, that's not true." And something that you can ask yourself when you put it on paper is one of the most powerful questions that I love is that 100% true? And when we ask that question, the natural response is always, "Well, no,"
Yeah.
because there's a lot of space in there. There's a lot of gray area. And sometimes just doing that alone can help kind of unlock that box where we're seeing that as a fact. Like, our body is responding to that as a fact, but it's actually a belief that can be rewired. So I have found that to be very, very powerful as a tool.
Powerful, bro.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I had you 5 years ago.
Well, you got me now, boo. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did, we
We
did.
really did.
Is there anything else we wanna touch on before we what do we got on time?
We're at 52.
Okay.
We're rounding out here.
Alright.
I would just say, like, the underlying theme, and Gina was really helpful in calling me out on this week around, like, have grace for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, remember that the work doesn't always have to feel heavy if we allow ourselves a moment to be human, to give ourselves grace, to really sit with, like, wow, this belief has been locked in there for a long time and I'm ready to let it out. And that we can practice that lightness
Yeah.
as we need to start infusing more of that lightness as much as we're willing to sit in the heaviness of the core fear.
And that's why you need people in your corner who are understanding and who know
Yep.
your personality
Yep.
and
And
know when you're
challenge you in good ways. Like, don't surround yourself with yes people.
like, "Bitch,
Have somebody that be like,
you're
now
so
listen,
great."
what we're not gonna do. And that would be like the advice that I would give somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like, remember that the relationships around you, when sometimes it might feel critical, if it's being delivered appropriately, it might sting a little. It might be a hard truth. I mean, that one wasn't. I needed that love bomb. But
I've given you
it's
I've given you the ones where you need to
yeah,
check.
and we do it for each other.
Yeah,
And
we
you know
do.
what? Like,
I'm like,
it's
okay.
been one of the strongest relationships I've had that has contributed to my continued growth. And so you have to, like, remember that that process can be uncomfortable. There can be moments, but when you really, like, diffuse the bomb and, come out of that part of, like, scanning for the threat and remember the benefit of the doubt of, like, why I don't think this person is actually here to hurt me. And I want to receive that. I want to receive that.
And I think we both come from a frequency and a place of love.
Yes.
So anything that we're doing is love for the other person or
Mhm.
it's part of our healing.
Yes.
And so it might
And
be
it
like,
might get
hey, I'm
messy.
coming at a something or
Yep.
notice something or whatever the
And
case,
share it. Find your person and
Yep.
share it, or write it down and let yourself be that person if
Yeah.
you don't have anybody right now. So, yeah, I think that's how I would round it out, is grace and remembering to practice that pause, because there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Till next time.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.